What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of doing something pretty special. We're not doing fighters right now because we are actually interviewing the spouses of fighters, and the very first person that I will be doing this with is none other than Dustin Pagliughi, who is the husband of Lady Killface. Dustin, what's going on, my man?
How are you, man? Doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Again, it's an honor and privilege because we see obviously what fighters go through, and some of it we don't see, right? And we never get the side of their spouses. So this is kind of cool. So first and foremost, how did you guys meet?
So we met, I believe it was back in 2010. She was a waitress at a restaurant called Rascal in the Miracle Mile in Los Angeles. And I came in there with my crazy family. We're very loud, very Italian, very proud. And, we tend to drink a lot of wine together. And the more wine consumption, the louder it gets. And she just kind of started hanging out with us while we were at the restaurant. She kind of gravitated over towards us, and we just, she sat down with us, and we were all just kind of talking. And I mean, the rest is history. That's the first time I met my wife.
That's brilliant, and it seems like the chemistry was just on fire even that first night, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we became friends for about a year before we hooked up, I guess you say. These kids these days, you hook up. But we I kept going in there, and she got me to come and train with her and do a private with her. And I fell in love with Muay Thai just as she did, and she kind of kept me going with it. And about a year later, that's when we had our first kiss, and it all happened from there.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so brilliant. And I love that, she brought you in. Now we spoke with her last week, and she was just, like she tried Muay Thai as just kind of like this like cardio kickboxing class. So I mean, how far in her journey was she when you guys met?
When we first met, she was an amateur fighter. If I recall, she had a poster hanging in the restaurant that she was going to be going and fighting. I think it was at Thai New Year at the time. So she was fighting Marie Choi, I believe, Marie A.K. Choi. Um, I think they call her the Angry Korean. I'm not sure if she fights anymore. I think she's more of a businesswoman. But yeah, so she was an amateur fighter. I don't believe she had any major aspirations to be a pro at that point, but I knew that she trained very regularly and was very religious about it. So
That's brilliant. Now, obviously, I mean, you were training at the time yourself, or just began training. But had you gone to Killface's any of her fights?
the first time I saw her fight was that fight at Thai New Year, and I believe it was a draw, or I think, but I just remember watching that fight, and it was such a scrap. I mean, Marie at the time was very, very good too, and very well known. So I thought Natalie did amazing.
That's brilliant. Now, obviously, training yourself, right? And, you might have had different aspirations, but, not to actually fight, maybe to defend yourself, lose weight. We have a multitude of reasons why. But, I mean, what was that experience going to Thai boxing fight? What was that?
It was great. I grew up wrestling. I grew up wrestling on the East Coast, and I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. Wrestled all the way through high school, and then I was aware of the sport because I used to do the media relations before I even met Natalie for WCK Muay Thai. So I was already tapped in with the Muay Thai crowd and well, I wouldn't say the crowd, but that promotion, and I was managing the media for them and putting some of their content on TV because I was a TV producer at the time. So I was very familiar with the sport. Thought it was a brutal sport. Saw my first Muay Thai fight in Vegas. In fact, one of the first fighters I saw fight live was, we joke, we say we're cousins, Joey Paiuso from USKO, who's a dear friend of our family. He and his family are just near and dear to our hearts. But I really enjoyed the sport when I saw it. You know what I mean? First venue was Buffalo Bills in Las Vegas.
Right on the border.
Yep. So like I said, I was very familiar with the sport. I just didn't really have any experience kind of training with it. Natalie helped me immensely along the way, and I still train a ton today. And obviously we train out of the Yard Muay Thai in Los Angeles. I've been with the Yard for about 8 years. Got great coaches, Mark Kimura, Joe Schilling, Yoshi Hisataka. I mean, some of the best in the sport. And, they've helped me immensely. Yoshi always helps me with my hands. Mark, he's always helped me with everything. Joe taught me how to kick. So, some furious kicks coming from Joe through my legs. So.
No, 100%. But that isn't even as anxiety inducing as a new skill that you've trained during this kind of quarantine times is holding pads for Lady Killface.
Yeah. She, we kind of made it a point not to train with each other too much. And, shit happens during a pandemic. She needs to get the work. And so, she used me as a pad holder. And over time, I feel like I'm getting better. I don't know. You can ask her that. But no, I mean, we flow pretty good right now. And, I'm happy to help her chase her dream. I appreciate her chasing this dream because it's really not easy for her. And it's not easy for females in general in a combat sport. So, there's a lot of things that should probably change from, notoriety to pay to, you name it, across the gamut.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Jesse Velasquez is saying, now you have to. You kind of have to, there it is. Now, you mentioned about the Yard Muay Thai. How special is that place to not just you, but obviously Natalie?
I mean, they're family to us. I can't imagine being coached by anybody else. I know that she also said that on your show when she was on, but I mean, it's a very special place to me. Mark Kimura is like a father to us. Joe is like a brother to us. I mean, especially to Natalie. Yoshi comes over our house. We watch movies. It's just a very special place. It's so special that I have a Yard tattoo that I'll carry for the rest of my life, and that will always be our home. And yeah, I mean, it's just an extremely very special place. It's a very special family, and it's not just with Joe, Yoshi, and Mark. It's literally with everybody that trains there, and just the skill set. It's from beginners to pro, and everybody checks their egos at the door, and everybody wants to help each other and not hurt each other. So it's a special place for sure.
Absolutely. Well, just kind of letting you know, I've got one of your family members, the one Edgar Barbary, coming up too soon. So definitely check that out.
He's the man. I love Edgar. Edgar and I spar quite a bit. He's a very smooth. I mean, he's a destructive ballerina, man. His footwork's great. He hits like a truck. He knows how to be calm. He's obviously a lot bigger than me. But he's just an amazing partner to work with, and it's all learning. You know what I mean? It's all learning whenever we spar. So it's been great. So
Well, you've been great. Thank you for doing this. This is a different turn that we're taking. But like when you said you do this, I was like, yeah, we got to have your take on, from the outsider in, and thank you for what you do for Natalie, what you do for the yard. It's just this synergistic family that kind of makes us all this combat sports community.
yeah, absolutely, man. And honestly, I've met so many people along the way. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually had 2 smoker fights. They were back in the day. They were very, very tough fights, and they were great experience, but I never called myself a fighter or anything. Um, Honestly, to call yourself a fighter, you need to really eat, sleep, and breathe the sport. Natalie wakes up every day, excuse me, 4:30 to run. She runs 5 to 6 miles a day, and then she trains 2 to 3 times a day at 2 hours a piece. So, you have to call yourself a fighter is something special, and you really just shouldn't unless you are a real fighter, and that's the honest truth. So
No, that's the truth, and you speak it, loudly and proudly. And having gloved up yourself, that's it's a unique experience.
it really is, man. It's like I said, I really enjoyed it. Joe was in my corner for my first one. It was a total scrap. I was 31 years old and I fought a kid that was 18. So you can imagine the stamina difference was very, it was just very, he was here, I was here, gassed out, 31-year-old. And then the second one, I won by TKO. The guy weighed in about 15 pounds heavier. I knocked him out with my hands, but brutal leg kicks, couldn't walk for 2 weeks. Yeah, man, it was a great experience. But after the second one, I decided this wasn't really for me. So
No, 100%. And one person that agrees with you 100% is current reigning and defending Alaskan featherweight champion Tyson Duckworth. And he said, "Preach,
yeah,
brother,
that's
preach."
awesome. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
cool, Tyson. I appreciate it.
absolutely. Dude, we appreciate you for coming on. This has been great, and this might be a recurring series. And you were the pioneer to usher this in, talking to the spouses of fighters.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. One thing I will say about, being married to a fighter, it is a very emotional roller coaster. Natalie's highs are very high, her lows are very low. But honestly, I think that's probably with most fighters because they want to be the best, and they strive to be the best. And sometimes it doesn't go their way. And sometimes that's a difficult pill to swallow, and true champions actually, they can take a loss and identify where they went wrong or what they need to work on and power forward. And I think that's a huge, huge thing for fighters. You have somebody like, I thought Ronda Rousey was an amazing fighter, and she took that loss and she retired. She probably was emotionally just burnt. Like she couldn't move forward past that loss. And that's unfortunate because I do think she was a great athlete and fighter, and sometimes you see that, you know what I mean?
No, 100%. And I love that you use that because I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves. She's more judged on what she did in the later part of the last 2 fights of her career versus the entirety of her career and the meteoric rise. I mean, it was like literally a 3-year run, 3-4 year run just in MMA, from champion Strikeforce and then, King of the Cage to the pinnacles of the UFC. And I mean, the UFC didn't even have a women's division. So a crucial member.
Total pioneer for sure. And everybody should respect that,
Absolutely. Well, we respect you because Jesse says it's cool to see all sides of the story, and respect. It takes a lot to compete,
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Natalie's a special fighter, man. I really wish she would have be afforded more opportunity because she's an absolute tornado terror in the ring. And she hits like a truck. I can vouch for that. I mean, a couple weeks ago, she was like, "Can you move around with me in the garage?" And I did, and she honestly just hits like a truck. She was knocking me. I'm 6'1", about 190 pounds. She was knocking me across the garage. I mean, you know, she's small. She's 5'6", 120. She walks around at 127. I mean, she's a beast. You know, I give her a lot of credit. She's come a long way. And back in the day when she was like, "I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to become a pro fighter," I may have taken that with a grain of salt, but then what ensued in the next year was an incredible transformation. She gave up everything to chase this dream, and I respect that 100%.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And Jesse Velasquez says it's easy to win like a champion, but hard to lose like one. And that's it.
Absolutely.
Bro, again, thank you so much, because this is an awesome insight into, you know, not just the fighter itself, but the family around. So it's amazing to have you, bro, man. You got any shout outs or things you want to plug?
I would just give a shout out to the yard and you know, to everybody who's trying to really inform the public about the sport. You know, I really wish Muay Thai would get a lot more credit. Shout out to Matt Lucas in Thailand, who's Farang and spreading the good word over there. He's a good friend of Natalie and I. Shout out to Fairtex. The owners of Fairtex have been really good to me and Natalie over the years. Adrian Shee, who's up in Vancouver right now. We love you, buddy. And of course, Mark Camoro. I wouldn't be where I am as a person. He's the most selfless man I've ever been trained by. Joe Schilling, of course. Yoshi Hisataka for always holding pads for me. You know, and just being, you know, everybody being family. Shout out to the Yard family for sure.
Hell yes, yes. And shout out to this guy, Manny.
Yeah, man.
Hernandez.
What's up?
Gotta love Manny. And then yeah, Jesse said it wasn't a fan of Ronda, but she's a legend for sure. Did a lot for the sport of women, you know.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Absolutely, dude. Well, I mean, another one blazing a trail still to this day is when Natalie, Lady Killface. So we're glad that she has you in her corner to kind of, you know, round it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to say one thing about being a spouse of a pro athlete. I'm never in the back with her. I kind of let her get her focus, and that's been really good for us. And, you know, I give her a hug and kiss when she's going to fight. We hang out in the morning, usually before the fight. We watch the movies together and lounge. And I give her a hug and a kiss, and I send her on her way. And I'm usually in contact with Mark or Joe while they're in the back, or Yoshi. And it's really been the right way to go about it, because I know a lot of spouses would want to be there next to their spouses, but sometimes that might not be good for them. So to recognize that, I think, has been a huge help in her success and our success in a relationship. So,
see, a family that fights together stays together, kids.
Right.
Well, Dustin, thank you so much. This has been According to Woods with Dustin Pagliughi, and we are out.
Thanks, man.